From a throwaway poem turned full-length animated feature, this experimental film would become a cult classic favorite. We're discussing Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas, coming up. Hello animation fans, Animator Talk here to celebrate our love and appreciation for the art of animation. Before we begin, can we just celebrate the genius that is this film? I know, right? This film was a pioneer in so many respects.
Thank you, everyone.
Sure, we've had stop-motion animation before. Christmas is loaded with examples thanks to Rankin and Bass TV specials. This is not so much about pioneering a new art form as much as it is about how they elevated it and perfected it to where it is today. But let's go back to the very beginning, when Tim Burton went to Cal Arts, the leading college for animation in the industry. At the time, Disney was well known for recruiting students from the school. Tim was recruited in 1980.
Hi, Tim. This is Tim Burton.
And despite his quiet, almost recluse nature, he made a name for himself quite quickly. He had a talent for quirky character design. Tim animated the character Vixie on Fox and the Hound, animated on Tron, and the character the Horned King in The Black Cauldron. Within this time, his talents gained some notoriety, and he was given a chance to work on whatever he wanted for a little bit. He was offered the opportunity to direct his own short story he titled Frankenweenie. It was a story of a young boy who was inspired by old horror movies like Frankenstein and found a way to reanimate his pet dog after he was killed in a car accident. It is said he was fired by the studio over his spending company resources for a film they deemed too dark for children. Which is funny because the studio would ask him back to direct a feature-length remake of this short film many years later, but that's a subject for another episode.
Sparky! I can't believe it!
But while Tim was at the studio, Tim had written a long poem about a skeleton man who discovers Christmas. It's an ongoing joke at home. Tim used to find it funny to decorate their Christmas tree with Halloween decorations. He gained his inspiration for this poem through those memories. Tim had expanded on this poem with illustrations, character designs, and a pseudo-story treatment. He had just finished a successful stop-motion short at the time he called Vincent, which inspired him to turn this story treatment into a possible television special. Disney wasn't interested at the time and put the file away. Once Tim was let go at Disney, the file was forgotten about by everyone except Tim. While directing films at Warner Brothers, the story idea nagged at him. So when he went to develop it and learned that Disney still owned the rights, he returned to Disney with the idea of resurrecting this for a feature-length film. At first, Disney was reluctant to take on the project. However, recognizing his clout as a successful director, with films like Batman and Beetlejuice under his belt, they greenlit the project. Tim reconnected with an old friend and Disney animation colleague, Henry Selick. Henry's strength and skill set was stop-motion animation. Tim knew that if this project was going to work, he needed someone he could rely on, and he knew Henry would give him the results he was looking for. They agreed to produce this film at full length, which thrilled Jeffrey Katzenberg at the time, who wanted to continue their successful animation streak. Disney wanted to continue to show technical capabilities and creative storytelling that was outside of the box of your typical Disney film. However, this story showed darker elements that bordered on the macabre, so it was very much outside of the comfort zone of Disney feature animation. They decided that this film should be released under the Touchstone label, much like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, as that subject matter was a little more mature than what the studio was used to. Tim would turn to Michael McDowell to adapt his story treatment into a screenplay. He'd previously worked with him on Beetlejuice. They would end up butting heads with creative differences, as Michael would convince Tim to make this film a musical. Enter Danny Elfman. Certain directors cultivate relationships with composers, which become their mainstay. Steven Spielberg and George Lucas have John Williams. Richard Donner would have Michael Kamen, and Tim Burton would have Danny Elfman. Elfman was the frontman for the band Oingo Boingo. He would find success in movie composition largely because of Tim. His quirky and fun melodies, as well as the strikingly contrasted harmonies, would be his signature sound. What would Beetlejuice be without those hard-banging piano notes? Where would Batman be without those heavy horn sections? For Nightmare's score, Danny would compose this score to rely heavily on the oboe, which would end up almost hovering over the fog of Halloween Town. Danny would end up flexing his jazz muscles for our main villain. And his wispy signature sound would envelop and adhere all of these themes into one of the most fun scores a film could have. Selig's studio was located in San Francisco. His team of over 120 people began production in July of '91. The production used 20 sound stages, which were all filming at the same time, as they had scheduling deadlines that needed to be met. Now, stop motion is a very laborious and time-consuming method of animation. Just 1 minute of footage took an entire week to film. Animators had to be very careful not to make any mistakes, for just one error would require the entire shoot to start again from scratch. This film would end up taking 2 years to film. Oh hey, did you know?
Check it out!
The filmmakers created 227 puppets to present the characters in this movie. Jack Skellington alone had 400 replacement heads, allowing for the animation expressing every possible emotion. We all know Danny Elfman wrote the songs and composed the score for this film, but did you know he had a small cameo in this film? Let's take a closer look at the jazz quartet. If you look closely at the band leader's head inside the bass,
a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and
the head is a caricature of Danny Elfman himself. All of the flames seen in this film are real. There are so many different techniques utilized in making this film, it's cool to know that the fire is 100% real. The erratic flickering that flames exhibit are perfect for stop motion. Oh wait, there is animated fire. Okay, aside from these flames, everything else is real. Ah, man. Okay, aside from the military explosions, everything else is real. Oh, forget it. I don't know if it was a lack of experience or acting ability, but they passed on casting Danny Elfman as Jack Skellington. They would end up casting Chris Sarandon instead, who sounds a lot like Danny Elfman. Well, that's fine, because Sarandon couldn't sing, but guess who could? Right.
Oh, look, what's this? The hanging mistletoe? They kiss? Why, that looks so unique. Inspired!
His stepping in to sing Jack's songs was so seamless that many have no idea he was involved aside from writing and scoring. Now, I admit I did not see this film in the theaters in its initial run. The advertising campaign was extremely underwhelming. Disney didn't have a lot of confidence in this film, so they didn't waste any money on over-advertising. If I had but known that this film was so amazing, I would have paid better attention to those rare airings of short commercials in '93. I heard more about this film in my animation class than I would hear from the ad campaigns. But more on that later. I purchased my VHS copy at a random drugstore in Massachusetts a full 2 weeks before it was supposed to be released in September of '94. I immediately popped it into my VHS player and was amazed with this film. The character designs, the story, the music, the animation. I was transfixed and transported to Halloween Town for a delightful 96 minutes of screen time. Once this film was released on home video, Disney would learn of the film's power. Sure, the box office returns barely hit $50 million, but on home video, well, that's where they brought home the money. Over time, Nightmare would become a cult classic. Disney immediately began merchandising and re-releasing this film in theaters for special events. They would even ask Disney Parks Entertainment to transform the Haunted Mansion in Disneyland into a Nightmare Before Christmas themed overlay that runs every fall through New Year's at Disneyland in California and the Haunted Mansion in Hong Kong. The Haunted Mansion Holiday, designed in large part by Brian Sandall, is a Disneyland fan favorite year after year, enticing park guests to return to this park in droves. If you haven't had the experience of riding this attraction, I urge you to make the trip and check it out. It's masterfully done. As would be the norm at Disney at the time, their success with direct-to-video marketing, Disney would attempt to persuade Burton to create a direct-to-DVD sequel for the film. Tim was not interested in following up a story whatsoever. He felt his story was told, and he had no interest in taking Jack on another adventure. Once he learned that Disney was planning to make a CGI film, Burton warned them of legal action and discontinued all plans. We all enjoy a good sequel of a favorite film. However, this film needs no follow-up. Everything came together at the right moment in creating this visual masterpiece. I think an ill-conceived sequel would possibly tarnish this film and cheapen it from what it is today. I say we leave well enough alone and allow this film to breathe on its own. The fan base grows every year, and with good reason. Henry Selick directed an amazing film based on a truly classic tale that could have only been conceived by Tim Burton. If you haven't seen this movie in a while, I recommend you give it a whirl. Until next time, you keep moving forward.